get to. Let's get to it. First, obviously, housing is one of the biggest things in Canada right now, one of the biggest problems in Canada right now. And it's been problematic for a long time. In 2008, there was a housing bubble in the US and it popped in the US, and prices kind of normalized along kind of close to income levels, right? 2 times income or something to that effect, 3 times income. And so you can get a house in the United States for 150,000, 200,000, depending on location and all sorts of other stuff. There are places in the United States that are a lot like Canada, but not many. Okay. So there's a lot more options with comparable housing in the United States than in Canada, because the housing bubble here didn't pop after 2008. It just kept going up. And Canadians looked at that as an investment, as some kind of way to park your money until you retire. And then you cash out in the unbelievably high market. I have $5 million. You're kidding, right? Unfortunately, $5 million is only enough for a couple of years in that future Canada. And it's not, the buying power of the money is being devalued very quickly. And as the buying power decreases, that seems to be speeding up. The acceleration of the reduction of the buying power seems to be speeding up. And all of that is culminating into a housing crisis. And on top of the housing crisis, the feds are bringing people in to reduce supply to next to zero. I mean, zero, less than zero, wait lists. Here's Justin Trudeau. This is a Pierre Poilievre ad. This is a great ad, honestly. And his media team, spot on. This is a very short ad, very, very effective. Here we go.
A Liberal government will prioritize
2015.
Significant new investment in affordable housing. Far too long.
2021.
Has been out of reach for far too many. It's time to change that. I'll be blunt.
2023.
Well. Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility.
You're out of money. He's out of touch. It's a good ad. It's a good ad. Very, very polished. 32 seconds. And 2 of the seconds is the branding, the bring it home branding. We were talking about this in the Canada Poly chat 10 seconds ago, really. So it's pretty interesting. With all of that, it's a very polished ad. Ben says, Trudeau in 2015, vote for me. I'll make housing more affordable. 2023, housing prices have doubled under my watch. Oh, well, not my problem. Yeah, people are upset. People are upset about all of that. Tracy says, why do we have a federal minister of housing? When you create a problem, it's incumbent on you to find solutions. We're on our own, Canada. Here is 5 seconds. And we just saw this clip, but this is Justin Trudeau reminding everybody that housing is actually not his responsibility, despite him promising multiple times to take responsibility for this and him causing the problem in the first place. It's not actually his responsibility. Okay, Canada, stop asking about it. And don't ask about what that thing is on my forehead. Here we go.
I'll be blunt as well. Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. I'll be blunt.
So, very interesting. John says, in short, to sum up the speech, it's their responsibility to triple the Canadian population growth rate to supercharge the demand and cost for housing, but they couldn't care less where people live because that's not their primary responsibility. Right? Here's the federal minister for housing. It used to be Ahmed Hassan, and then it was, I can't remember who it was just recently. He just got shuffled out, and Minister Sean Fraser got shuffled in. Fraser was formerly the immigration minister, and now he's the housing minister, right? So pretty wild stuff. We're not doing ourselves any favors in Canada. The politicians aren't interested in hearing there's no housing, there's no supply or anything like that. They say, well, the provinces, that's their responsibility to deal with that, right? No, because supply and demand is so out of whack, the prices are out of whack, right? Globe Politics says not enough places to live. Trudeau says of the housing market as he pledges support to scale supply. And I point out, we imported 1 million people in 2022 and built 100,000 homes, 1/10 of the needed supply just for that population. Trudeau did nothing, and he's still doing nothing. Nothing. He doesn't do anything. Not solving the problem and actively making it worse by making immigration a bigger piece, bringing more people in. And again, I really dislike lying to people about the opportunities in Canada. Pierre Poilievre is addressing this issue with housing, and he always talks about building houses. He says average rent across Canada has hit $2,000 a month. Why? Because Trudeau can't get housing built and his deficits ballooned interest rates. I mean, his deficits ballooned interest rates, sure, but it's not the lack of building that's a problem. It's the huge influx of people that's the problem. He says, my plan, fine big city governments that block housing, reward cities that green light building, bring down deficits and rates. I think the problem with that is it hasn't been worse circumstances for building in 40 years. It is absolutely the worst set of circumstances to start building if you're a builder, and you want to wait for your rates to come down. You want to wait for, people to be able to afford it. It's expensive to build these things, and if you can't unload it, you've just made a bad, expensive mistake. You know what I mean? So, and if you have to unload it at a loss, what's the point in starting? So people are waiting until conditions improve, right? And Maxime Bernier responds to Poilievre. He says, no, rent is skyrocketing because of Trudeau's mass immigration policy that you support. We had 1 million more people last year. It's not possible to build more homes and apartments that fast, but we can stop mass immigration right away. It's just common sense, Pierre. So, yeah, yes. Bill Tuff says even the woke global elite media is saying that Trudeau's mass migration plan will be catastrophic for the country. And it says newcomers to Canada not driving employment gains. This is from Scotiabank. And so that's interesting. I'm not going to get into this right now, but fundamentally, the argument is if we supercharge the economy to 100 million people, then Canada becomes this mover and shaker on the world stage. But economically, we were already punching above our weight class because of our rich oil and gas industry and other natural resources that we can export. And economically, we were part of the G7. So we already were moving and shaking, if you will. We didn't need to flood our economy with people who are not working. And by flooding our economy with people who are not working, all we're doing is causing division. I don't think that it's helping anybody, not the people who come here, because the promises of the opportunities aren't there. They don't exist, right? It's not cheap housing. It's not cheap food. It's not opportunities abound, right? Like there's a lot of legislation about businesses and all sorts of stuff. So people feel misled, and all of that contributes to competition on housing, competition on jobs, causing division and conflict. And that's bad if you're a society. Apparently it's good if you're an elitist who wants to control society. Jeremy McKenzie says, okay, let's talk about elections because I think there may be an election on the horizon. Jeremy McKenzie says, here we go again, bullshit Olympics elections for the fall of 2023. And he's citing a elections or Government of Canada website that says 45th general election CRO banners have been tendered, and the closing date for the tender is today, August 1st. So at 2 p.m. So if you can do election CRO banners, you better get your tender in, right? Jeepers creepers. The deadline's 2 o'clock. Get that thing together. Rebel News is showing a video. This is 2 minutes. I'm going to play it because it's an interesting, what he's saying is interesting because it is a window on how he thinks, and how he thinks ignores reality quite a bit. So I'm going to play this, but it seems like electioneering. It seems like we're listening to an election speech or pre-election, right? They're spending money. They're touring around the country. The Liberals are, and this is what they do with pre-election as well. It is summertime, so also they do this in the summer. But we've had a lot of fall elections, so this could be the run-up to the election. As well, listening to the rhetoric, it seems like the attacks on Poilievre are intensifying, but they're not working, and I'm going to show you that as well. Here is Trudeau for 2 minutes. Rebel News says, Justin Trudeau, who drummed up hatred of unvaccinated Canadians in an attempt to win more seats in Parliament, accuses Pierre Poilievre of trying to stir up anger to attract voters. Okay, so election coming in the fall, maybe?
Yes, there are challenges around the cost of living. But you don't solve problems by scaring people, by stirring up anger. He's hoping that he's going to be able to get votes out of it, but that's not how you build a stronger economy. Confident communities, confident countries invest in themselves. His solution on anything is cut housing supports, cut dental supports, bring forward a two-tier healthcare. You haven't heard him talk about the investments we're making in healthcare because he doesn't want to have anything to say about that. because these are real measures that are going to be helping Canadians. His answer to everything is cuts and be angry. That's not Canada. That's not how we build a stronger future. That's not how we've gotten through the challenging times we've had in the past. Canadians roll up their sleeves and get to work and build and invest in themselves and their communities. That's what we do. We partner with people. We don't pick fights with mayors. That's where the anger that he is drumming up is dangerous for Canadians who would much rather work hard and build a strong future than throw up their hands and say, oh, it's all terrible, it's all broken. Let's all stay home. No, that's not who Canadians are.
He was the one who made Canadians stay home. The reason people don't want to work for Justin Trudeau's vision is because Justin Trudeau's vision is a disaster. Just look at housing, for one example, but there are many others. And if you build a disaster, then you have to live with that disaster, right? You make your bed, you lie in it. There's all sorts of euphemisms for that. But what he's building, people, I certainly don't want. Like, the results of this are the grocery stores are very unaffordable. The gas prices are unaffordable, and the tangible benefits that Canadians are getting, this promise of a reduction in emissions and saving the future from climate change or whatever, is bullshit. I don't think that anybody's really bought into this. And so the idea that we're not wanting to fix problems and just stay home, according to Justin Trudeau, is ridiculous. People want to stop the bleeding and then fix the problems so that we can have affordable housing for people who live here. Not affordable housing for people who might want to come here in the future. Affordable housing for the people who live here first, right? If you work all of your life and you still can't afford a house, that's a bad outcome. That's a negative outcome. If you work all of your life, the government takes your money, and other people who didn't work in Canada get tax breaks and help from the government to buy a house, and they move here from another country to live in a house that is purchased by the government, that's insulting. That's a bad outcome. Why would anybody work for that? That's what he's asking you to work for. Canada's broken. If it's broken, and I think a lot of people think that Canada's broken, me too, then I don't want to continue to work for this broken ridiculousness. I want to stop the bleeding and maybe put it back together, right? And fix it up and make it a viable place for my kids to raise their families, because that's really the point. And the idea that Justin Trudeau is trying to sell this, we have to help everybody but ourselves, and prioritizing Canadians is a bad idea. And Pierre Poilievre is trying to drum up hate or whatever. I haven't seen one example. I don't think anybody could provide one example. Don says, trying to get the Justin Trudeau cultists to give examples of Poilievre spreading hate or anger. Not a single reply, just spewing talking points like their dear leader. So I haven't seen any tangible evidence of that. But I just think it's interesting how he dismisses the idea that Canadians don't want to do what he's doing, and so that equals staying home and not engaging at all. But the reality is, Canadians want to engage. They want to engage in something that's going to work and be tangibly fix the problems that we can see every day going to the grocery stores, looking at rentals, right? If you've got kids or whoever you are responsible for, and if your friend's looking for an apartment or something like that, and you're looking for rentals for them, and you see $3,000 and it used to be $800, you're like, what the heck, right? Did you get a raise? How are you going to afford $3,000 for rent, right? But you need to, because where else are you going to live, right? I mean, maybe a good opportunity to move to the States, but then we're going to get brain drain, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how I'm logged out here. There's a couple of that I'm logged out on, and I don't know why. It's very strange. Anyway, regardless, Alan says the attacks on Pierre Poilievre by Justin Trudeau, judging by the polls, simply aren't landing. Canadians increasingly are saying they want change. Can't help but wonder if this might be one last desperate counteroffensive before a walk in the fall leaves. So we've got these CRO banners. We've got people speculating, walking the leaves. Maybe this guy's a media guy, right? So he's a retired journalist. CTV News says, cuts and be angry. That's not Canada. Trudeau goes hard at Poilievre. Again, it's fictional. Like what he's accusing him of is fictional. Here's Plato again. Abacus survey. We found that Poilievre holds significant advantages over Trudeau in terms of competence, judgment, and empathy, understanding people like me. The polling firm asked 2,500 respondents to evaluate Trudeau and Poilievre. This is a National Post article. Again, it seems like the wind is switching. 2,500 respondents is, it's hardly a poll. Like it might be a polling firm, but that's a survey. And if you have a survey of 2,500 respondents, you could give it to your 2,500 members on your website. And if the 2,500 members of your website, respond back and you get it a certain way, they make news about this kind of stuff. And it's not like, I don't necessarily think it's real. So it's interesting to me how the wind is shifting, right? It used to be that the conservative leader is racist. And now, well, he's beating Trudeau in competence, judgment, and empathy. Interesting. Right? Interesting. Notable. Mark Gerritsen is pointing out that Pierre Poilievre has WEF people in his caucus. He says, I wonder, and in his leadership team too, I wonder if Pierre Poilievre knows that Melissa Lantsman charged taxpayers $2,500 to attend the World Economic Forum during her time as a Harper conservative staffer. Yeah, the Harper government sent his ministers and staffers apparently to the WEF. Now, is that Melissa Lantsman being a WEF member? I mean, according to Mr. Poilievre, that means Bernier is a WEF member, right? So I guess Melissa Lantsman is too. Really weird, right? So why does Poilievre have these WEF affiliations in his leadership, right? And he continues, Mark Garrison says, or the $178 she charged for a government lunch at High's Steakhouse. I'm not sure why that matters. Like, I don't know if High's Steakhouse is some kind of secret code for WEF. I'm not sure. But he's piling on Melissa Lantsman, who's piling on Chrystia Freeland, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, for forgetting about the taxpayer-funded car and limo driver. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Eva Chipik is talking about Chinese foreign interference, and we're talking about elections. And I've said before, I don't know how we could possibly have an election if we don't understand fully the Chinese interference in our elections. And when I say the wind has shifted, the wind has shifted. So, I mean, have the Chinese decided that they're backing another horse, right? Is the informing Justin Trudeau that they're backing another horse just taking the form of the media abandoning Trudeau? I have no idea. Like, I really don't know. This is just speculation. But it seems faulty to think that Chinese interference just evaporated now that the CSIS leaks made us aware of it. It seems like we forget everything. We're very forgetful, humans are. And so even if people remembered, there hasn't been really an investigation. There hasn't been a stop to any kind of like government movements, actions. They've passed censorship laws for the internet, which is just outside of the charter, I think, outside of the expected actions of a government that is acting in the best interest of its citizens or takes its agreements with the citizens to govern in the way that the charter dictates. Seriously, I think that they wouldn't act that way, right? And so has Chinese interference just disappeared? People have totally forgot about it. Let's go into a new election. Yay, the new prime minister. Woo! And then when bad policies continue and we continue to be broke because of climate change or carbon taxes, et cetera, what recourse then, right? Good question. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.